Welcome to Prime Cohesion. Please join us as we move forward in this endeavor. We hope you join us for some banter and laughs as we touch on the real life topics that united us.
So we've been talking here recently about the housing market, the way things are going right now, and we thought it would be beneficial to have a realtor on to actually speak from your perspective on how you see things and how they're going right now. Real quick, if you could just... How long have you been a realtor now?
I've been a licensed Florida realtor for about 7 years, but I've been in and out of real estate for about 19.
19 years? Okay. So, a few of the questions we had, one of the ones I wanted to start off with was, how do you see the market as it stands right now? How do you see it as a realtor?
So the market is fluctuating by the day. There's a couple things happening that are affecting the market tremendously, and most of it has to do with the economics of our current society. So, in my opinion, there's a couple things happening. So, if you had called me 8 months ago and said, Renee, I'd like to buy a house. I'm pre-approved for the average now price sale for Riverview, which is just outside of Tampa. It's a very popular city because it's right near MacDill Air Force Base, so you have a lot of people living off of base there.
Gotcha.
Average house price is like $425, right? So people are approved for $425. They say, hey, I want to get new construction. Okay, great. I go out to all my new construction venues. No one has any inventory, nothing, zero. Get on a waiting list. And if you get on the waiting list, then you might be on the waiting list to get on the waiting list to buy the dirt. Forget about the house. So what happened was in the last 3 months or so, since the feds raised the rates, my buyers that were pre-approved for $400 to $450 now can only afford a home in the $375 to $400 range because of that 1% increase in that interest rate.
Yeah. Right.
The income ratio got bumped down. So at the same time, now my buyers can't buy, but at the same time, this happened within 6 hours, and it happened to me because I was shopping for houses for my clients. At 11 in the morning, I had all the builders saying, Renee, I have nothing. The day the feds raised the rates that day, at 7 o'clock that night, I get an email from one particular builder with about 18 homes available now. I called them up. I said, what are you talking about available now? We just had this conversation. You had nothing for me. Well, all those people that were under contract getting ready to close on those homes or were building those homes, since that interest rate popped, their DTI got kicked off. Now they can't buy that house. So now they have all of this inventory.
Wow.
So
and no buyers, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's happening with new construction. When I have a seller call me, and it happens on a daily basis, Renee, I'd like you to sell my house. I say, that is friggin' awesome. Where are you going? Well, what do you mean? You're going to sell high, you're going to buy high. When you bought your house 2.5, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, your interest rate was about 2%, maybe 3.25%, right? Your interest rate right now for great credit, you're starting at 5.6.
Ouch.
Yeah, that really cuts you
So I
purchasing power.
We went through his scenario of why he was trying to sell. He was trying to cash out. He was trying to take the money out and buy something else. And when I gave him the math and said, you sell that house that you bought 2.5 years ago for $279, which at today's market, it's worth $480. You're going to cash out. That's great. Now you're going to go buy a new house for $480 with a 5.6 interest rate, start the interest all over again. Your closing costs, which with new construction, people don't know, is about 8% of the purchase price. Then you got to sell your house, which you got to pay almost 7% total. It doesn't make any sense to move. So right now the market is starting to be more saturated with homes that weren't available just a couple months ago. Investors are pulling out on deals because they don't know where the market's going. We all know where the stock market's at. Well, most of your cash buyers, have that kind of cash because they're big investors. So that some of them are holding, saying they're too scared to take the money out right now because the real estate market is just so unpredictable by the day.
Let me ask you this. Up here, basically 1 in 3 homes has been purchased by investors, and they're turning around and renting them. They're not even,
Yep.
Reselling them or flipping them. Is that the same in Florida?
It is the same in Florida. What we have here, and I'm sure you do too up there. So when I sell a house, I always go to my investors first because they're usually the highest, they're cash, they're quick, and they're out. But we have a lot of HOA communities where they only allow 2% to be owned by an investor, so they can't buy in there. The new construction communities were forbidding any investors or second homes to purchase because there was no inventory and they wanted families to have their homes first. They have now opened that up to investors because they're getting desperate. But yes, if I pulled all the statistics for you right now, and I pulled, let's just say 1,000 homes, I can guarantee you 900 of those homes were purchased by an investor and paid for in cash. They were not financed.
Really, that much?
Oh yeah, because we have the influx down here. California, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. They all don't want to live there anymore. They're coming down to Florida. Our taxes compared to those in New York and California are nothing. So I'll put a house on the market, say it's $375. They come down and they're like, well, I'll give you $405 for it. What do you mean? That difference to them is nothing. The taxes that we pay in Tampa, basic house, $450,000 with a CDD fee and an HOA, I don't know, $4,500 a year. California, they were paying $15,000.
Ouch.
So that's why there's this huge influx. Plus Florida, not speaking about Georgia, which I know we're right across the border, but Florida is DeSantis. Nothing closed down. Everything's open. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
That's, one of the huge reasons. Plus we have a lot more employment. COVID messed the housing market up as well, in my opinion. You had everybody who couldn't go to school, so now the kids are at home. The kids need the desk. The kids need an office. Mom and dad got put working at home. Their houses got real small real fast. So that blew up the supply and demand as well because everyone wanted a bigger house.
Well, did you see a boom in people selling right when COVID hit, basically? Was there a boom in selling or a boom in just people wanting to buy something bigger?
There was a boom in buyers coming from out of states, and then there was a small bump, those saying we need a bigger box.
Right.
So both of those things hit. And what else hit with COVID was everyone went on unemployment because everything was shut down, and they still haven't been able to recover to get those workers back.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to recover.
We don't have the supplies. It took one house when it would take you prior to COVID 8 to 10 months to build the average brand new construction home. Now you might be a year to 18 months out. Once they start,
right.
You couldn't get a trust to save your life. So everything is backed up. New construction builders are making less money than they ever did because they can't build them fast enough. They can't build 20 spec homes at the same time. They only can build 5 because they don't have the labor for it. They don't have the supplies for it. And they don't know what the cost is going to be in the end game.
Yeah, lumber already fluctuated so bad to begin with. It was, now I can't imagine what it is.
Yeah, and they don't know. So they do like now where I used to contract on a house, say, hey, we're going to build this house. It's $400,000. Now it's $400,000, but you're signing off that you're agreeing to go to $480 by the time we get to the end because we don't know.
Wow.
Then by the time you get to the end with these interest rates the way they are, that's my fear. I got a lot of young couples under construction. Once we get to the end game, what's the interest rate? If the interest rate going to be 8%, they're not going to be able to afford that house. They're not going to get it.
No, they're supposed to do another interest bump in June, I believe, correct?
Yeah. It's scary. My perspective, it's scary. My other bump in sales is younger families can't afford to live on their own. They're selling their homes, they're buying RVs, or they're buying fifth wheels, or they're moving in with mom.
Is the tiny homes caught on in Florida?
There's a couple sections in it. A couple people are doing it. They got all kinds of regulations in specific counties of how many sewers you can have, all that kind of stuff. So there's not like any huge tiny home communities. Most of the RV parks are full.
Yeah, that's been a problem for a while. Because they really haven't added any parks
Yeah.
anywhere, especially in Georgia. I don't know of a new one that's open in probably 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, they're building a couple of them up in North Florida, actually. But south, you go down to Tampa, Riverview, Waimama Parish, Bradenton, Sarasota, they're all full. You can't get them.
Renee, could you explain the difference in what, say, a single family buying that $400,000 house, what that mortgage payment looks like versus an investor coming in and then turning around and renting it?
So, kind of a loaded question because you don't know if a VA is buying, a VA member, a VA veteran is buying a home, they have no down payment, so their mortgage payment is going to be higher. But I'll recap it quick. So you got a $400,000 house in the average community in Tampa, which you have a CDD fee, no money down. You're probably looking at $2,300 a month. Same for rent. You're probably going to look at $2,300, $2,500, $2,800 a month.
Is that what they're going for right now in Tampa? $2,300 a month to rent?
That's cheap, darling. You can go get yourself a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment complex down in in Brandon, which is an average town, and I think you might be able to get now for $3,200 a month for an apartment.
God.
Because people can't, when you put a house up for rent, a lot of people don't qualify, right? So when I do property management and I would look for renters, I want someone with a lower credit score, and I want someone who just claimed bankruptcy because they can pay their rent, they can pay their bills. You got to give them a second chance. A lot of these people, they can't afford first, last security. They don't have that kind of money in their bank account. So they're being forced to go to apartment complexes who will just say, we'll take first and security. But then their rental rate every month is insane. Like literally insane.
That's so much more than a mortgage. How in the hell are people even... So they can't qualify to buy a house to get a mortgage, but they're expected to pay $3,200 in rent? How in the hell...
I don't know. I can't afford it. I don't know. I don't know. That's why most of them are moving in with their families. And then I legitimately have clients who cannot afford to live anywhere. So they buy a fifth wheel and they're in a rental lot. I have clients that are elderly. Didn't realize this market was going to do what they did. They sold 5 years ago, bought an RV, went to go travel, lived the life, realized, okay, we're almost 70 and have dogs and cats. Living in an RV is not ideal. They come back and said, Renee, find us a house. They're veterans. They have no money down. They don't have any money. And I scoped the entire state of Florida. There is nowhere for them that they can afford. So they bit the bullet, and they're paying $2,100 a month for a very tiny, tiny little old house.
Wow.
That's
and they
just
can't
sad.
afford it. Yes, and they're retired.
So they're on fixed income. They're making probably not much more than what, $2,100 a month. They're making maybe $4,000 a month. So they got to make it between the two of them. They got to pay rent or pay a mortgage of $2,100 a month. Then you got utilities and everything else on top of that, plus groceries and what. They're barely keeping their head above water, and they should be retired and being okay.
Yeah.
I have a friend up here who works in the housing industry as a secretary, and she chose to cut her own hours to 4 days a week because she could not afford the gas to get to work anymore.
Yeah, so we're probably seeing a lot of that right now.
So this is my personal opinion. This is what I've seen, and this is how I view it the last couple months. With these gas prices going up, the food prices being outrageous, I don't know about you, but I know if I was 25 years old and I had this mortgage payment, let's just say you had a normal mortgage payment, a normal one you bought 10 years ago. Forget what the prices are now in the real estate market. The price of gas, the price of food, the price of life, and the price of medication, especially the elderly on medication. If I had to choose right now, do I feed my kids, go to work so I can feed my kids, buy my medication so I can actually live, or pay my mortgage? I'm not paying my mortgage. And I'm not suggesting that anybody doesn't pay their mortgage. Food and health comes first.
Right. Yeah, you got to make a choice.
There's also another thing happening in the industry that people haven't realized yet. So when COVID hit, they offered these everybody in the world to do a furlough on their mortgage.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys
forbearance.
are forbearance. So there was two ways to do it, and the people that did the forbearance, most of the banks said, no, we're just going to take 6 months of your mortgage and we're going to throw it on the back end. Don't worry about it. So instead of having 30 years, you got 30 years and 6 months, right?
Okay.
Well, a lot of those banks in that contract they signed, and you can Google it, that total 6 months bill is due on June 30th of this year in full.
What?
What?
I thought they were throwing it on the back.
Yep. They did, with an expiration date.
Oh, that's frickin' shysterish.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I have had clients, I just sold one of their homes, and I always ask, what do you owe in your house, just so I can give you an idea of what your payout's going to be when we close. I want you to see what type of money you're going to walk away with. And they give me their mortgage payoff, and I'm like, all right, you guys, you're going to walk away with this. Okay, cool. So I get back their statement from the title company, and I go through to make sure there's no liens on the property, make sure their mortgage is correct, and there's 2 added liens. So I called them. I said, you guys got 2 added liens on your property. You want to tell me what this is? Oh, we forgot. Forgot what? We took out 2 loans that were offered to us when COVID hit. So, okay, well, just so you know, you're getting $40,000 less at closing. They said it's fine, but they forgot.
You forget $40,000.
Jesus.
They forgot because it was 2 years ago. You're already struggling. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're young. You're struggling. $40,000, it's almost 3 years later. You don't worry about it because it was thrown on your mortgage, right? Didn't change your life. Didn't change your payment because it was thrown on there. Well, it was a second and a third lien.
And it's due now.
Most of these banks, not going to say all of them, but most of these banks are requiring that deadline is June 30th of this year to be paid in full.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't know how they could say we're going to put it on the back end of the loan, because anybody, the average Joe Schmuckatelli out there who's signing that paperwork is going to think, okay, I don't owe that till 30 years from now. If you just started the loan, I don't owe that for 20 years.
Right.
So was it in the fine print that said?
Yep.
Oh, that's fucked up.
I think there was a man in Georgia who made the news, if I'm not mistaken. He made the news. I can find that and I can send that to you, but I think there was a man in Georgia who's about 70 years old, and it just happened to him.
Wow.
And he has no idea what he's going to do and doesn't know where he's going to move.
Oh, that's messed up.
Let me read this to you here.
Yeah.
The last week, the Federal Reserve said they're going to shrink their $8.9 trillion balance sheet down to about a third of that over the next 3 years. So they're saying they're going to start winding that down June 1 at around $47.5 billion a month, and they're going to ramp it up to $95 billion per month by September. Got $3 trillion off of it over the next 3 years. And typically, and they quoted, it's mostly bonds and mortgage-backed securities. So that's really cramped the real estate market too, wouldn't you think?
I do. I believe. Yes. It's going to be a mess. I don't think it's going to crash. It's just going to be a mess.
So there's going to be a lot of inventory that's unaffordable is going to be the biggest problem.
Correct. And here's my thing is, if people have furloughs or people have debt, great. No one's underwater right now. Your house is worth more than you paid for it. It's wonderful right now. So all these people could sell, get out of it, and be fine, but they have nowhere to go. So I think the market will level out. The prices will come down a little bit, right? But the interest rates are going up, so it's the same thing. Your debt to income ratio won't work.
Yeah. The feds are squeezing it on both ends. You might as well just pump the brakes and just pump interest rate to 8% and just get it over with in like 2 quarters and bring it back down.
Yep. If people can even afford it. The builders, I think, are the ones that are gonna. I'm not saying I'm feeling sorry for them at all. I'm really not, because I feel sorry for my clients first. So, they're gonna have to, all those houses that they built that all these people can't afford, now they're sitting on that inventory. They're gonna have to come down in value, and they're gonna have to take a loss.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know a lot of builders up here back when the market crashed in 08-09 time frame. I know, like, there's a development right behind mine that the builders walked away, and people just walked into those houses because the builders went bankrupt because they couldn't sell them.
Yep. I believe that that's going to happen again. What's killing them too is they all have different fiscal year endings and they don't pay taxes, right? So the house isn't complete when you walk into a house that you're buying new construction. It's never complete till the day you close on it. There's always a nut, a bolt, a door handle. Something's missing in that house. Because once they get the CO on it, they have to start paying taxes on the full house. So right now, all these builders are just paying taxes on dirt. Even though there's a building there, there's no CO on it. So they're paying taxes on dirt. Well, their fiscal year ends. They want those houses off of their books.
Yeah, I mean, they're still paying a construction loan, correct? It's just not taxes.
They don't pay the taxes, right? The builder pays their construction loan or their development fees, which in Tampa, most of the development fees just get passed on to the buyer anyway.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, I probably just painted a very spaghetti picture for you, but that's my opinion, and that's the truth of what's going on in so many different angles.
Yeah, we come to similar conclusions on this in a prior discussion about, if you sold today and took the $100,000 or $150,000, where are you going to go? Because you can't afford nothing. It's like starting over.
Nope. And then I had a client who wanted to do it, and he said, I'm going to go rent for a year, wait for the market to calm down, and then I'm going to rebuy. I said, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, okay. You're paying $1,800 a month on your mortgage now because you bought your house 2 years ago. So now you're going to go pay $2,200 a month on a rental. And then you don't know if that person's going to end up in foreclosure. So are you guaranteed a place to live for that whole year? Plus, you're not getting the tax break you get for owning a house. And what are the interest rates in a year? Plus, you have closing costs. You have rental costs. You have moving expenses. That $150,000 you think you're going to roll with and go find some place to live, I promise you, does not equate.
Oh, you're going to be down to half of that at least by the time you find somewhere to go.
Uh-huh. And then you're going to pay way more than that just in the interest rate. And then I have the thing, too, with people who sold and bought RVs. We're taking the simple life, okay? Well, how much is that gas costing you right now to even try and go anywhere?
Yeah, right. Do you have a lot of people that did that went the RV route?
Probably in the last year, I sell an average of 51 homes a year. So out of those homes that I sell, I would probably say out of 50, let's just say 50 in the last year, I would say 15 of them did it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. And some of them can do it. Some of them are good. Some of them are very young people. I'm like, hey, if you think you can do it, go for it. I personally won't do it, but go ahead and try. Give it a whirl. But some people don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Where does the average single man who makes $17 to $20 an hour gross live anywhere?
Yeah, that doesn't seem possible right now, does it?
Nowhere around here. Because a 1-bedroom flat down the street from here, I mean, in your construction, so they got a low interest rate. They got rates at $1,900 right now.
Plus utilities.
Plus food, plus gas.
Yeah. Plus just regular, I want to live a decent life.
Correct. Just to buy anything is nuts.
So right now, the market is where it's at. In your estimation, what do you think? When do you think it's going to level out? Do you see it leveling out anytime soon? Or what do you think it's going to get back to what we would call normal? Do you think it'll ever get back to what we would call normal?
I already see it changing rapidly. So if I listed a house just 3 months ago, average 400,000, I would literally have 35 to 45 showings a day. Like people were banging down the doors to see these houses. They're all like a feeding frenzy. I could list a house right now, I'll probably only get 5 showings for that day. Because people are frustrated. I've had a bunch of buyers, and I hate to say this, I got about 11 buyers on hold because they're all VA. And no one wants to sell to the VA. That's a whole nother subject. Don't get me started.
Really? Because that's where I'm at.
That subject burns me to my core. So, what was your original question? I just got sidetracked emotionally.
When do you think it's going to get back to normal, if ever?
I think I don't know that it's ever going to be back to normal, to where we think normal is normal, because you as a person building a house even go to normal when it's costing your truck driver to deliver that concrete to develop that community 15 times the amount it was in gas.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of concrete, we have a shortage in concrete up in the central Georgia area. Y'all have same issues in Florida?
Yep. Yeah.
Really?
So how can I say I'm going to sell you, I'm going to get this house back to a normal price when I can't even get the material at a normal price? Not even buying the material. I can't get to the material at a normal price. So start there. Start with the supply demand. I know plumbers that used to be able to go to Ace Hardware and buy this little doohickey wiki, whatever they needed, and there was a whole jug of them. Now they can't even find parts. So they're
Right.
driving to 4 different stores to find parts. That's going to up everything you get done in your house.
Yeah. Now you started to say something about the VA. What's going on with that?
So I have a ton of VA buyers. I work by MacDill Air Force Base. I have a very good rapport with a lot of people in the base, and most of my business is referrals from them. So when you put your house on the market, you're going to have 4 different buyers. You're going to have a cash buyer. Cash is king, regardless of what you're selling. You're going to have a conventional buyer, which means they're pretty strong. They're most likely putting down 20%. They have very stable everything. They're next to cash. That's who you want to buy your house. There's specific things in the house that don't have to pass in an inspection if you are buying for FHA or VA. Such as if you said, Renee, I want you to sell my house. And I go in there and I go, well, your roof is 15 years old. Your AC is 18 years old. And your hot water heater needs to be replaced. So this is not going to pass a VA or an FHA appraisal inspection. So I can't list your house right now for VA or FHA because you can't afford to replace those things and they're not going to pass appraisal. That's number one. So half the market isn't even allowing FHA or VA buyers. On top of that, the insurance companies all pretty much went bankrupt in Florida, if you haven't heard. So the insurance company have now changed their rules. It's average. The roof has to be an average of 15 years young. If it's over 15 years, you're probably not going to be able to get a reasonable insurance amount. So you're forced to go to Citizens, which is government-backed insurance. Okay? So let's take that. There's that problem. Then I have my VA buyer. So there's, 20 houses for sale. They all meet their requirements. They all are in the price range of my buyers. They're all fantastic. Let's just assume I take my buyer and see every one of them. I put in an offer for every single house for them, 20 of them at a time, right? They're losing out to every single bid because people are paying more than the house is worth. So the house is $300,000. My VA buyer says, well, I'd like to offer $305,000. I want the seller to help me though and give me that $5,000 towards my closing costs because I don't have that money, right? So now the seller's down to $300,000. No big deal. That's normal. That's how we used to roll. But now you got all these people, hey, I'll give you $325,000 for that house and I'll pay the $25,000 difference from the appraised value to from the appraised value to the purchase price in cash. My VA buyers can't compete with that. Can't.
Right.
So we don't just have a housing problem. We screw our veterans at the same time.
The veterans and the FHA buyers, the average American who doesn't have $20,000 to $30,000 to compete with all these other people. I said this is what should be done. This was my opinion when I got really mad about this because I get very angry and emotional. The government backed so many things way back in the original crash, right? How about, Mr. Government, how about tell a seller, listen, if you sell to a VA buyer, we will give you like a $20,000 grant or a $20,000 credit.
Yeah, tax credit.
Tax credit for selling to a veteran. How about that? Now the VA guy gets to buy the house that they need to buy and they need to house their family. The seller just helped out a family and now they're getting something from the government. It's a win-win for everybody, but nope, they can't do it. Instead, they'll wait till the shit hits the fan and then everyone wants the government to do all this other stuff and then nobody wins.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens with the VA as well is a lot of agents they think a VA appraiser is too hard, so that when that house has to go through a appraisal before it closes, they think that they have in their head, and I don't know why, And I think it's more of the less seasoned agents. Oh God, VA is so hard. Don't even list. Don't even offer it to the VA. It's just so hard. It's not. It's really not. But they have this thing in their head that it is, and it's not. They're just being protected more than they would on a conventional loan because certain things have to be at a certain standard for the VA veterans and FHA buyers.
Right. Well, I know Mom just had the same instance. So the insurance company told Mom, Mom lives in Tamarack.
Yep.
And she said she had to replace the roof on her home. The insurance company basically sent her a letter and said, if you don't replace your roof, we're not going to insure your home. So she had to pay 20 grand out of pocket and replace the roof, or she couldn't get her house insured.
Correct. And when you don't have it, if she can't get it insured and she has a mortgage, you sign that paper when you sign up for your mortgage that you are going to have your house insured. If you choose to have your insurance dropped or canceled, not choose. If you're forced to have your insurance dropped or canceled because you can't afford that roof, now you're in default to your mortgage and they can take it from you.
Yeah, which I didn't see. I was like, well, that's fucked up because there was nothing wrong with her roof. It was just old. They were like, oh, your roof is over 15 years old. Well, there's no trees anywhere near her. Nothing happened to the roof. The roof is perfectly fine, but no, you got to replace it because it's old.
Yep. And there's a whole bunch of insurance companies. One of the very large insurance companies called Lighthouse just went out of business. And there was a frenzy. It just happened last week. Frenzy. I had clients calling me, what am I supposed to do? I said, you got to get new insurance. So then they go to get new insurance. Well, it doubled.
Oh, my God.
And those people that can't afford, a lot of people were selling too because they can't afford the new roofs. They can't afford what they're asking them to do. Nobody has that kind of cash. And the average roof replacement, I don't know, on a 1,800 square foot house just for the basic shingles, people would say, Renee, how much do you think the roof's going to be? I said, I don't know, about 12,000. Now it's 20 plus.
Yeah.
Materials.
Yeah, I think mine was like 12 when I did it, like 8 years ago.
Yeah, it would probably, I promise you, it'd be about 20 right now.
Yeah, and that's with just standard asphalt shingles. If you got Spanish tile or
forget
anything
about
like
it.
that, you can forget it. Yeah, it's going to cost you a damn fortune.
Yep, it is.
But I don't understand how they can get away with that. Oh, it's just too old. Well, no, inspect it. Why don't we have somebody inspect it and say, no, this roof is good for another 6-8 years, or
it's
something.
Usually 2 to 3 year lifeline. So when I get a roof inspection, because you have to have two inspections to get insurance now. You have to have a 4-point inspection and a wind mitigation inspection. So what I do, if it's an older roof, I say, I need a clean bill of health to send to the insurance company. And the insurance company requires 2 to 4 years life left on it to write the policy. But since they changed the rules, now they're saying a flat number, 15 years. Well, how about the people that have roofs that are 4 years old and they're under trees and they don't maintain it and they don't give a shit and this and that and then that? They're okay though.
I mean, that just really negates a 30-year roof.
Correct.
I mean, why pay for it?
Yep. Got that going on too.
The insurance commissioners aren't doing us no favors, huh?
And the roofing companies are making a fucking killing.
Yes, they are. I have to say there's a couple roofing companies that I work with. So I had this situation about a year ago and I had a very nice young couple selling their home. And I had them as my sellers, and I also had the buyers. And my buyers were, they had no money. They needed closing cost assistance. They needed help. Well, turns out they were friends, so they helped each other out. And we were at the end game, and they would not write the insurance policy for the roof, so the roof had to be replaced. And I said, okay, well, the sellers don't have the money. That's the reason why they're selling. They were a couple that actually moved into a fifth wheel. And I said, the buyers don't have enough money for that. So there was a couple roofing companies I called. And I got estimates, and they were kind enough. I said, can you put that new roof on the house, but you're not going to get paid till we close. And we found a company that did it. But they're still making their money, so there's ways around of getting out of it. But still, your mom, where would she move to if she was forced to sell?
Exactly.
And then forced to sell with a roof that the new buyer can't insure either. So now your new buyer, so if your mom said, Renee, I want to sell my house, but my insurance company's getting ready to cancel, I'm going to say, okay, well, I only can list conventional or cash. I can't offer it to a VA or FHA buyer because your roof is too old.
Yeah, nobody's winning on that deal. Nope. You touched on something on Facebook. few weeks ago about solar panels on roofs, and apparently that's affecting the market as well. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yep. So most insurance companies now won't insure your house with solar panels. You still down here have people door knocking. Get solar panels. You'll help the earth. You won't have an electric bill. Oh no, don't worry about the cost up front. We'll put that on your mortgage. Nope, we got it. Solar panels really rub me the wrong way, and I'm sure you know from my post.
Yeah.
So you get couples, people, they literally knock on the door, get solar panels. You won't have an electric bill anymore. Oh no, you don't have the 30 grand. It's okay. We'll put it in your tax bill. Really? Yeah, no problem. No money out of pocket. Okay, awesome. Yay. My electric bill is now only $3 a month where it was costing me $200 a month. That's fine. When you sell that house, that $30,000 is as a second mortgage in the first position. It must be paid in full at closing. Or there are some companies that will allow the new buyers to take out a second mortgage on the house as well.
But it's still a second mortgage?
It would still be a second mortgage. It's very rare we can get that done, but it can be done. So here, so the average American moves every 5 to 7 years, especially in Tampa. Even more so in Tampa because of the military, because they get their orders. So they're moving constantly, in and out, in and out, in and out. So now you have no electric bill. That's fine. Well, you just voided your roof warranty because you put holes in it. And they'll tell you, no, our holes are different holes. You don't put holes in a roof. I don't care what kind of hole it is. You voided your warranty. Now you have a $30,000 solar bill you're going to be paying for. You're not going to be in that house for more than 7 years. Pay your electric bill. The math does not add up. They also tell you when they sell you these panels, you'll get a tax deduction. You don't. They also don't tell you your insurance company will cancel you. They also don't tell you they add zero value. Renee, I want to sell my house, but I just put $30,000 on solar panels, so my house is worth more than the next door neighbor's house is. No, it's not. It's worth the same. It's zero value resale. The appraisers say, oh, nice solar panels. 0.00 goes on the report.
Why is that? How come it doesn't add any value to the house?
There's no value to it. They don't care. It's not enhancing your home functionally. It's like,
You're still getting the same electricity.
They don't give a shit what kind of electricity you're using. You're turning that light switch on with power, solar, whatever the hell you're doing. It has no value.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that.
No, and they're lied to by these people knocking on the doors, just like they were lied to, which created this whole roof mess years ago. The people knocking on the doors, I'll get you a new roof for free. All they did was basically did a wholesale, I don't know how to describe it. Fred, I'm going to get you a new roof. My roofing company is going to get you a new roof for free. Basically, what you did is you signed in the contract rights. You gave me being the roof company, power of attorney to go to your insurance company, put an insurance claim on your house, put a new roof on. You could have done that yourself. But I just made an extra $8,000. Now your insurance is going up next year. That happened with so many companies. These insurance companies went out of business. That's why you're seeing that.
Yeah,
that's the result of that.
We went through that a few years back, where if you had a little bit of hail damage, they wanted to do the whole roof. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they were coming around like crazy. They were knocking on everybody's door. Hey, let me inspect your roof. So they would inspect your roof and say, yeah, you got hail damage. We can replace your roof. And then you'd have your insurance company come out and they would look at it and they go, no, you don't have hail damage. Yep. And you're like, well, I got these guys coming out and they're like, well, we're not paying for it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was to the point where if they found one or two houses with some hail damage, they would pull the weather reports to check for hail, and they would check everything in that reported region from the weather service, trying to make a sale.
To make $1. Half of those roofing companies are now the solar people.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong there. Well, Tesla's got the actual shingles that is your roof, which would be decent, but that's a freaking fortune. That's, that's the cost of your damn house, pretty much on top of your house.
Right. If you're a young couple and you're not ever moving ever again in your entire life, go for it. You're moving every 5 to 7 years. It's never going to pay for itself. Right. And what do those panels do? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure panels go bad. Well, your roof's going to go bad first because there's holes in it. Then you would just void your warranty. And then the disposal fee, if you ever have to get rid of those, forget about it. And I said, what am I supposed to do with these panels? The roof was bad. I was flipping the house. There's panels to keep this pool they had warm. It cost me $1,000 to have somebody who come remove it, and then they charge me some kind of crazy fee because of the lithium in them to dispose of them.
Yeah. Electronic waste is not cheap to get rid of.
Right, and that's a whole nother subject. Well, I have solar, so I don't use power and I'm saving the earth. Well, has anyone ever done the research of what it costs or what it does to the planet when you pull lithium out of it?
I have.
It doesn't recover.
Data shows for extraction of lithium, it's around 300 to 500,000 gallons of water per ton. I'm still looking into that to verify, but that's a lot. I mean,
you can't win. It's everybody, and people don't do their homework. They just believe what they hear.
Right. So at the end of the day, so what do you think? Do you think it's going to level out anytime soon? When do you think it'd be safe to sell a house again and actually recover your money enough to be able to afford something else?
In my opinion, I think that things are going to start leveling out a bit with higher interest rates. My opinion would probably be in the next 10 to 12 months.
That's not too bad.
It's not, but there's still a storm in that. There's still a storm. Now you're selling less.
We're going to be having to try and catch the new construction on the bounce with a higher interest rate, basically.
Right. So you're moving from the one house to the next house, but you're still spending more money because of the interest rates. So even if that house was $400,000 right now and they drop it down to $350,000 with the interest rates they were versus what they're going to be,
you're paying the same.
Debt to income ratio, they still can't do it. And that's if the economy. I mean, like I said, if I was in that kind of position, I wouldn't be making my mortgage payment, so I'd be going in foreclosure in 8 to 10 months. So what is that going to do?
Yeah, there may be a whole different story come 10 to 12 months, the way people are, because a lot of people are probably going to already be in foreclosure by that time when everything starts to level out. And then what does that mean for them?
Right.
And that forbearance, was there you saying, Jason, the forbearance?
Yeah.
Forbearance, yep. So there's so many different factors happening. I got people who can't afford to live in Tampa, so they're moving to North Florida. And I'm like, the good part about that is they would have never been able to work in their homes until COVID hit.
Right.
And companies realized, oh, wait, I can have all these people work in their houses. So there are some people that are like, well, they're making Tampa money and Tampa income, but they live in North Florida, or they can move to North Carolina, or they can move other places where they were stuck before doing that commute,
Right.
So that was one of maybe the things that came out of COVID, but.
Yeah, it was great for a lot of people, and I think a lot of companies as well. I mean, even companies here in Atlanta, like I know a buddy of mine used to work in downtown Atlanta on the 31st floor of a building, which was the top floor. Well, the company Travel Click, they realized we sent all these people home and they were working from home, and we were getting the same amount of work out of them. So they got to get rid of all that overhead. They just got rid of that floor. Right. And they were just paying people to stay at home, and they were making more money and they were getting more work out of people. So yeah, I think a lot of companies won in that deal because they realized, people aren't just sitting on their ass. I'm getting the same amount of work out of them at home, and I don't have to pay overhead.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the technology sector really won on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Talk about so much Wi-Fi. And then I know down in Florida, they couldn't even host it all, but that's a whole nother story too. They couldn't host it. All these kids had to do their schooling from home, or people were working from home. So now the internet speeds and all that stuff had dropped, and then we want to get me started on that. I felt bad for half the families that couldn't afford a computer, so now their kids couldn't learn. So
a lot of the schools were like Jack's school here in Atlanta area. They gave them, I think it cost us $25, and we basically rented a laptop from the school for the year. So for $25, they gave him a laptop that he could take home. I mean, we were responsible for it, but it was only $25, and he just gives it back at the end of the year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but I know there's a lot of districts that can't afford that. So yeah, those kids are just screwed.
Yep.
But when COVID hit, a lot of these schools had to figure something out quick because school couldn't stop. I mean, they had to figure something out.
And kudos to all the teachers who actually figured all that out, because I know I couldn't do it.
I wouldn't have wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, how do you get 30 kids on the same page and change your curriculum and how you're actually going to teach?
How do you teach a kid over the internet at home in his own environment and keep his attention? Because, I mean, he's got his, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tater. Parents need to really be involved.
I mean, I went through it. I mean, I changed my whole schedule. I'm lucky to have a job. I'm lucky that the people I work for allowed me to do that so that I could be here 3 days out of the week. My mom did the other 2. So it was rough because I had a kindergartner at the time and a second grader. The second grader I could kind of leave on her own. Kindergartner, I had to be there the entire time. So it was rough, and I'm not a teacher.
Then you had to take that time that you would normally take in your regular work day to make up for your work that you missed because you were being a teacher's assistant.
Right.
Well, thank you, Renee. I very appreciate you coming on. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
You're very, very welcome. If you have any questions, let me know. That's, that's my basic opinion, and I'm a little bit emotional about it because there's just so much going on, and it's just to me it's unknown, and it's just a little bit scary right now, and the cost of everything, including housing, is just it's not fair. But any other questions that come up, you guys feel free to let me know.
Well, if you want to plug yourself real quick and put your information out there, let everybody know where you're at, where you can be reached if you want to real quick.
Okay, yep. No, Renee Perry with Future Home Realty. My phone number is 954-448-8485, and my primary place of business is all of Tampa, Valrico, Gainesville, and North Florida. And you can visit my website at www.reneeperryrealestate.com.
Awesome.
All right, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you for inviting me, and I'll be sure to listen to you guys shortly.
All right, thank you, Renee.
Well. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Renee. Appreciate it.
No problem. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was interesting to hear about the VA. I would never have guessed that.
I didn't either, because that's the boat I'm in. I'm like, oh shit. There's people that aren't going to want to sell to me because I'm doing a VA loan.
Yeah, unless you got cash from the sale of your house.
I do, but a lot of people planning on.
You know what I mean? A lot of people don't have extra cash.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know.
I didn't know that that was the case. I thought all the loans were treated the same. I was under the impression that everybody was in the same boat, and whoever put the offer in that the customer or the buyer or the seller was willing to take, that's who got it. But apparently, I guess they just don't even look at FHA or VA in certain cases, which is a little disturbing.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, based on the information she gave, it's going to get real ugly. I don't think it's going to level out.
No, it's going to get
with those bills being due at the end of this month.
I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I looked it up. I looked it up when she said it, and she's absolutely 100% correct. June 30th was the last extension.
So how can you tell somebody we're going to put this on the end of your loan, and then it be due at the end of this year when you have 20 years left on your loan? I don't understand how that's even legal.
I don't know, but it sounds a lot like 2008, 2009, man.
This is going to be worse, I think.
Imagine having to pay $15,000 on top of your mortgage in the middle of everything. You know what I mean? It's not happening. Another thing that's going to come to a head that's probably going to affect the housing market is the PPP loans that everybody got. There was some very stringent guidelines to that about stuff you had to keep up with, how many employees you had, who you were paying, and things like that.
I'm not familiar with that. What are the PPP loans?
So they forgave a lot of them. If it basically was small business loans that they were just handing out like fucking candy during COVID.
Okay.
Oh, I got the COVID money.
People. Yeah, the COVID money.
Right. And is it all going to come due at the same time, or are they going to be able to make a payment plan on that?
I think with this, they can make payments, because I know like that's what our company was doing. They took out just to cover payroll when we shut down. We couldn't work.
But still, I mean, now that's on top of mortgage rates, $5 gas, grocery bills double.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, on top, if you got a loan coming due that you did not expect coming due June 30th, and now gas prices are the way they are, you still have to go to work, everything is starting to go back to normal, and now bam, I have this payment I have to make. What's going to happen?
Well, something else too. Think about this. Before COVID, a lot of low income people who maybe couldn't afford a car, couldn't afford insurance, but they could afford a Uber to work, or whatever, or they'd ride with somebody or maybe catch a Uber home. $5-10 a day. It's not that much, really, but it ain't $5 or $10 anymore.
No, it's not.
I mean, if I were like when I Ubered down to Jason's house, it was expensive. It would be almost triple what I paid. I mean, these people.
And how far is that? How far was that? Maybe 20 miles?
20?
Yeah, maybe. I think I paid like $50 one way or something like that.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
Pre-COVID.
Think of that. Pre-COVID. Now think of that now.
Ouch!
You gonna need a bicycle, brother.
The rideshare people are not getting rides because people can't afford it unless you work downtown.
Right. I can't imagine. Well, the lady that did my Uber, she was a stay-at-home mom kind of a deal. Like her husband worked and she was kind of just doing this on the side. She worked from home. She had another job, but like her break time was basically going to go Uber, and she was just making her extra spending money doing that at the same time. You couldn't make a living off of it anymore, I don't think. Not with what they're paying them.
I know some people who still do. I don't know how they're doing it, but
that's their only job.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it'll all come to a head. Gas prices keep getting higher. Uber prices will keep getting higher. Everything's going to keep getting higher. It's all going to come to a head pretty soon.
Yeah, and it's all about supply and demand, because supply is ultimately king. Well, actually, demand is ultimately king is what I meant to say. So if you're not paying for it, if people just don't, if they stop doing it, then the price will come down because people just aren't doing it.
I've said that about cars. People just like hit the brakes on buying cars for 6 months. This shit would come down a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's before COVID. Like you couldn't afford to buy a truck before COVID.
Yeah, you can't afford. Right now, it's the same. You can't buy a truck right now for less than $7,000, and I'm talking a 1990s model pickup truck. You can't buy for less than $7-8 grand. When I was growing up, I could find a pickup truck for $1,500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw something on Twitter, man. It was some guy. He worked for some corporation, and he was explaining how millennials don't want the hassle of owning a home, and that they would just rather rent. And that's why all the corporations are buying up all the property, especially downtown.
I don't know that that's true, but
there's a portion of the population of my generation that's like that, sure. But the vast majority of us are not.
When did rent get higher than a mortgage, though?
It's always been that way to an extent, but not that exasperated. Like, I hope my landlord never catches on to what's actually going on in the market, because I'm screwed if he does.
I think I paid like 7 something, and when it hit like 800.
Oh, you can't find nothing for less than 1,200 now.
I'm just saying, a long time ago, I was like, well, hell, at this rate, I might as well just buy a house, and I just bought a house because it was as high as a mortgage.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were. Market just went crazy.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that does. Like I was telling Jason not long ago, my brother had a place on the Intercoastal. I guess it's probably 10 years back now, but he had a place on the Intercoastal. He lucked up into a place that a guy had owned since the 1950s. And since he had already had it paid for and he didn't owe anything on the property, he didn't raise the rent. So the rent was still only like $400 a month. And we're talking in the 2000s on the Intercoastal. And it was, of course, it was a little 1-bedroom apartment, but still, he lucked into that. But I can't imagine nowadays, because most people, they just know what the market's at. And it's like we were just talking, $1,200 you'd be lucky to see $1,200 for a 1-bedroom nowadays, I think. And you can get a mortgage for $800 to $900 a month on a decent house. I'd like to thank Renee Perry once again for coming on and speaking on the housing market. She's a realtor once again in Tampa, Florida. She left her information if anybody wants to get a hold of her. Also, please, if anybody has any questions or comments, hit us up at primecohesion@gmail.com or head to our Facebook page at Prime Cohesion on Facebook and leave some comments. We appreciate it.